You move through life, assuming that existence is divided. You see yourself as one entity among many. You see others as separate centers of experience. You see the world as something outside you. This structure feels obvious. It feels unquestionable. Yet Ibn Arabi challenged this foundation. He asked whether division is something that actually exists, or whether it is an idea produced by how the mind organizes experience. He did not begin by denying the difference. He questioned whether difference necessarily implies separation. He proposed that reality itself never becomes many, even though it appears as many. This proposal is not mystical in tone. It is analytical in nature. If reality is truly one, then what exactly is divided? And if nothing is truly divided, what creates the sense that everything is? Ibn Arabi wrote within a tradition that treated knowledge as direct investigation. His work was not primarily concerned with building religious systems. It was concerned with examining the structure of being and knowing. He approached metaphysics as an inquiry into how reality presents itself to consciousness. For him, spiritual understanding was inseparable from clarity of perception. His writings aim to show how assumptions shape experience. They do not ask for blind acceptance. They invite verification through reflection. This raises a central question. Are his claims descriptions of belief or descriptions of something observable within your own experience? You naturally divide experience into parts. You say, this is a thought. You say, this is a body. You say, this is another person. These distinctions are useful. They allow navigation. They allow communication. But usefulness does not guarantee truth at the deepest level. You rarely question how these divisions arise. You rarely ask whether you are discovering separate things, or whether you are naming segments within a continuous field of experience. Language encourages separation. Thought reinforces it. Over time, division feels inherent rather than constructed. But feeling inherent does not mean being fundamental. The question remains, are you perceiving separation, or are you interpreting unity through dividing concepts? When Ibn Arabi spoke of oneness, he did not mean that everything looks the same. He did not mean that differences disappear. He meant that differences do not possess independent existence. A form can exist. A function can exist. A pattern can exist. But none of these exist by themselves. They exist as expressions of a single reality. This is a subtle point. Unity is not sameness. Unity is the absence of absolute separation. Something can be distinct without being independent. Something can be unique without being isolated. This challenges ordinary logic. You are accustomed to thinking that difference equals separation. Ibn Arabi asked whether this assumption is justified. Every experience you have is known. A sensation is known. A thought is known. A memory is known. Even confusion is known. This suggests a simple fact. All content appears within awareness. You may call awareness consciousness. You may call it knowing. The name does not matter. What matters is its function. It is the condition that allows experience to occur. If everything is known within the same awareness, then awareness itself is not divided by what appears within it. The content varies. Knowing does not. This raises a direct question. If the field of knowing is one, where could an absolute boundary exist? Ibn Arabi pointed toward thought as the primary source of apparent separation. Thought names. Thought categorizes. Thought assigns edges. This is not an error. It is a tool, but a tool can be mistaken for reality. When you say tree, the word does not cut reality into two pieces. It creates a conceptual distinction. In the same way, when you say me and world, you create a conceptual boundary. You begin to treat this boundary as factual. But the boundary exists as an idea, not as a line drawn through existence itself. The question becomes unavoidable. Does the vision belong to reality or to description? You function as an individual. You have a history. You have tendencies. You respond in particular ways. Ibn Arabi did not deny this. He denied that individuality has an independent existence. Individuality is a mode of appearance. It is not a separate source of being. Each form expresses the whole. No form stands outside the whole. This reframes what self means. You are not an isolated unit inside a universe of other isolated units. You are a localized expression of a single reality. This does not erase your uniqueness. It removes the assumption that your uniqueness makes you separate. How can something be distinct without being independent? The idea of non-division often produces discomfort. You may notice resistance. You may notice fear. This resistance does not come from logic. It comes from identity. If you have spent your life defining yourself as separate, then questioning separation feels destabilizing. The mind associates separation with control, with authorship, with ownership. If separation is not fundamental, then ownership becomes less solid. Control becomes less absolute. This can feel like a loss. But what is actually lost? A conceptual position, an idea about who you are, not functioning, not existence, only a belief. The question is simple. Is the discomfort pointing to danger or to a challenged assumption? You can understand every word of non-dual philosophy and still feel separate. This is not a contradiction. It reveals the difference between conceptual knowledge and recognition. Conceptual knowledge adds ideas. Recognition removes mistaken ones. Ibn Arabi emphasized that unity is not achieved. It is noticed. It is not constructed. It is uncovered. You do not become one with reality. You discover that you were never separate from it. This discovery is not dramatic. It is simple. It does not create a new state. It clarifies an existing one. The paradox remains. How do you look for what is already present? If separation is not absolute, daily life does not collapse. You still speak. You still decide. You still relate. What changes is the underlying assumption. You no longer treat others as fundamentally other. You no longer treat yourself as fundamentally isolated. The difference continues. Conflict may still arise, but hostility rooted in absolute division may weaken. Responsibility remains. Action remains. Consequences remain. What fades is the idea of a permanently separate owner of action. Life becomes something that happens rather than something possessed. This is not passivity. It is a shift in orientation. Can engagement exist without constructing an ultimate us and them? You began with the assumption that reality is divided. You examined how that assumption is formed. You saw that division arises through naming, categorizing, and identifying. You noticed that all experience appears within a single knowing. Nothing new was added. Nothing was taken away. The only change was in interpretation. Multiplicity still appears. Difference still functions. but the belief in fundamental separation loses its authority. What remains is simple. Reality appears as many without becoming many. If reality has never been divided, then the original question returns in a quieter form. What exactly has been divided in your experience, and by whom?